What's up? Welcome to Royalty Gaming. Here's the breakdown. Today we're going to be talking about Ubisoft and why their games all feel the same. Now, personally, I love Ubisoft games. I've played just about every single one, and that's part of the problem. After a while, there starts to be this, what I'm going to call Ubisoft fatigue. It's after playing so many Ubisoft games and then being not so similar that they're indistinguishable. It's just that they're really similar structure wise. It gets to be way too much. And now Ubisoft makes some unique games, but eventually they all turn out to be this same kind of open world stuff full of collectibles. Skip the side quests because there's way too many of them. Craft your equipment, take out the outposts, like open world, like cluster. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a mess. So it doesn't help that the sequels of the games are already so similar to each other because of the short development times. So there's that, but then all of their games follow that same structure. Like they put out Assassin's Creed, and that was a brand new, not entirely new, but it was a fresh concept. It was a brand new IP, and it had a lot of promise. And then Assassin's Creed 2 came out, and that was the best game of the series. It was the perfect sequel. It expanded on the gameplay in every way. It expanded on the story. It gave you more options. It was a lot more colorful. The main character was a lot the main protagonist Ezio was a lot more likable than Altair was, and just seeing him fit into the Assassin's world and kind of grow up a little bit in the process was a great story. And then I think the next game was Brotherhood, which came out the very next year, maybe less time than that, but it came out really soon after that game, and it was like, okay, all right, Brotherhood. It was a decent game. I remembered not really liking the little mini game. I'm not sure. This is the thing too. I'm trying to talk about these games without researching and looking at the details, like just off the top of my head, and it's really hard because they all start to blend together. Like, I don't know if it was Brotherhood that had that little defend the town mini game or if it was Revelations. I think it was Brotherhood because I remember skipping Revelations actually because I had gotten Assassin's Creed fatigue. So I'm gonna say it was Brotherhood. I didn't like that mini game, and just they jam-packed them with so many side quests, so many things to do, so many things to look at, so many things to collect that after a while you just like ignore everything. It's all white noise. You ignore all the side quests, you ignore all the, ledge perches to jump off of, and the doves to collect or the letters to collect and the different pieces of a. And I just made a beeline straight for the end of the game, only because I was so invested in the story. Assassin's Creed, especially because it's a mystery. All the games are interconnected and it's one big mystery. You want to just race to the end and see how this game fits in the puzzle. With Revelations, I skipped that game and just watched the ending on YouTube. Like, I couldn't do it. I couldn't play through another exactly the same Assassin's Creed game. So that was that. And then trying to see where in the timeline these games fit together. I think the next game that I can talk about that had that same kind of formula was Far Cry 3 came out. I'm going to say, and then Far Cry 3, same thing. It had that same open world, kill animals, craft your gear type of thing. And at the time, I don't think that was in Assassin's Creed yet, and if it was, it wasn't as fleshed out as it was in Assassin's Creed 3, which came out after Far Cry 3. And that game definitely definitely stole, like, used ideas from Far Cry. And each game, it's the strength of Ubisoft, but also why all of their games start to feel the same, is that each game builds onto the last game, whether it's a part of its franchise or not. They'll take the ideas that work and stuff it in their new game, and then drop the ideas that don't work, and then add a bunch of new ideas on top of that, which themselves may or may not work. So then you just get this giant mess of good ideas to decent ideas to terrible ideas, all working at once, and then in many cases not working. But Far Cry 3 was an excellent game. Narratively, it was great. The protagonist was a little bland, but it almost didn't matter because he was surrounded by such a great supporting cast. Of course, you had Voss, the main antagonist of that game, or should have been the main antagonist for that game. Actually, the main antagonist was a guy who I don't even remember. Voss dies about, I want to say, halfway through the game. There's the first act, which is all Voss. I've been saying his name wrong. It's all Voss in the first act, and then you have the second act, and he's dead for that act, and you miss him because it kind of just turns into, whatever. You get on the second island, and you have to get free from the helicopter and find the base of Voss's sister and whatever. That was a great game. That was a really great game. But again, the problem is these are all really good games. It's just that there's way too much. There's too much of it. There is a such thing as too much of a good thing. But at the same time, these aren't good things that they're stuffing these games with. They're decent to mediocre to bad things, and there's too many things. So it's just all too much. But Far Cry came out, and it's completely different. Not completely different, but Far Cry 2 is not the same game as Far Cry 3. Anyone who's played either game can tell you that. In Far Cry 2, they had that malaria mechanic that, you had to pay attention to your health or whatever. Far Cry 3 was completely about the hunting, taking over outposts, that kind of thing. And then Watch Dogs came out, and it's like Assassin's Creed in modern times, and then there's Assassin's Creed 3 and Assassin's Creed Black Flag and Far Cry 4, Assassin's Creed Unity. All of these games have some variation of that open world, crafting, taking over outposts, sneaking, hiding, stealthy kind of game. And it's just the formula is very apparent. In every game that Ubisoft is now making, they have a formula. You see it in Ghost Recon Wildlands. It's that open world. Give them an open world. Give them collectibles. Give them outposts and areas that they have to capture. Call it a day. That's all of their games. And I'm a little afraid for future games because with Ghost Recon Wildlands, we see that not even their more structured IPs are safe from getting the formula treatment. I would have thought that it was, but I really like Splinter Cell Blacklist. I think that's one of my favorite games of all time. It's such a perfect game. Every mechanic in Splinter Cell Blacklist works completely. There's not an ounce of fat on that game. Like, the story is good. The characters are good. The gameplay is excellent. The mechanics work the way they should. Sneaking on enemies feels incredibly satisfying in that game. When they find you, you never feel like, oh my god, this guy caught me because I'm in a video game and that's why he caught me, type of thing. There's a moment in Splinter Cell Blacklist that I can remember that sticks out. I was hiding in a vent from a guy in an office, and I dropped down, and he heard me drop down into the room. So he runs into the room. I climb back into the vent, and then he said something like, "I know you're up in the vent," or something, and then like left the room and went to the other room where the exit for the vent was, and checked the vent from that room. And it's just great. Like when you get moments like that, it's like you expect certain things because you're playing a video game. If you've been playing video games for as long as I have, you or any amount of time, you play a couple video games in a row, you start to notice video gamey elements. And when a game comes out that breaks that, convention that you have about, he can't do that, this is a video game, and then he does it, it really leaves a lasting impression on you. So that was a great game. But now that Ubisoft has this formula, I'm afraid to think about what the next Splinter Cell game is going to look like. Is it going to be an open world, spy game where, I got to go to my apartment and get dressed and then drive across town to, my contact, and then he talks to me and he gives me a mission, and then I got to drive to the other side of the town and do Splinter Cell stuff for a little bit. But like back in town, I gotta get all the USB drives and collect all the top secret spy documents, and I don't want to do that. I just want the crafted, perfectly encased levels that you get in the older Splinter Cell games. Just one little level, and you play it and you beat it, and then you go back to base, you switch up your gear, and then you hit the next localized mission. Like, there's nothing wrong with set pieces. I'm not sure when everyone got this idea that everyone loves an open world game, no matter how empty, no matter how bland, no matter how pointless it is to make the game open world. If you make it open world, people will love it. People will buy it. People like Ubisoft games because, for the most part, they're really good games. Even if they weren't open world, they'd be really good games. For some of the games, the open world is integral to the structure, such as Far Cry 3 or I guess even Watch Dogs. It kind of needs the open world. But for Assassin's Creed, you don't really need the open world. And for the most part, those games aren't open world, except for the ones that blatantly are, like Assassin's Creed Unity. And I think that took away from the game a little bit, because the first Assassin's Creed, and definitely, the first up until at least, I want to say, Assassin's Creed 3, first to 3, including 3, weren't really open world games. I didn't feel like Assassin's Creed 3 was open world, that I can go anywhere, do anything. There were these large open towns, and traveling from town back and forth through miles and miles of woods was an experience. But if you just made it one town and then loading screen next town, I wouldn't have even noticed or missed crossing those forests to get to the next place. So it doesn't add anything, and in most cases it takes away. And I just hope that Ubisoft realizes this. They've kind of slowed down on their production of Assassin's Creed, because Assassin's Creed, not Unity, but the one after that, with in Europe with the Droogs, and I don't even know what it's called, because I just stopped caring. After Assassin's Creed Unity, I played that game for maybe 10 minutes, and then I turned it off, because it was just really, it was really bad. Like, for a completely different reason, and I'm not going to go into it, but it was just not a good game. And then that Assassin's Creed, I don't think it reviewed well either, and I think they've slowed down on the series because of it. They just got to kind of bring it back in and realize that, this formulaic structure that they have to approaching their new games they need to kind of fall back and leave that alone and do something different. And hopefully, I think Ubisoft is one of the better game companies when it comes to kind of knowing what their audience wants, for the most part. So I think just like how they've split off the boat gameplay from Assassin's Creed Black Flag and turned it into its own IP, I think they're a little smart about what it is they need to do to crank out these good games that everybody loves and get back in our good graces. So I think they'll make the right choice here and get back to something that we can really, something unique, something that reminds us why they have so many successful franchises at the same time, and why they really deserve their place as probably the biggest third-party developer out there, aside from EA, I guess. So that's just my breakdown. Ubisoft has a lot of problems. One of them is this, let's make all of our games the exact same and have the same feeling problem. But I also think they're coming around, or I'm hoping they'll come around and drop that and get back to just making fresh, innovative games that, we love to play like they have many times before. So yeah, that's the breakdown. If you like the video, comment, subscribe, share this, and, reach out. Tell me what you want to see in the next breakdown. Maybe, poke some holes in this one and let's talk about it.